I keep seeing a bunch of comments claiming that people have to be absolutely out of their mind to buy an Intel-based Mac right now, since Apple announced that they're switching to their own ARM-based Macs, but that's simply not true. These words from Apple's Greg Joswiak prove it.
We are also trying to get people used to the idea that Intel systems are going to be around for a long time. Right, we're going to continue releasing versions of macOS for years to come to support our Intel-based Macs. And we still, as Tim said, we still got some Intel-based Macs to introduce.
Now you might be wondering, what does years to come mean? Well, here's your answer.
How many years are years to come for support for Intel Macs and macOS?
Years.
Years.
Multiple.
I believe are the words we used.
Obviously, we got a lot of customers on Intel-based systems, so we're pretty good at taking care of our customers. You know that.
So if you think about it, basically every Mac out there right now uses an Intel chip. So Apple has to support them for the same amount of years as they currently do. And if you take a look at which Macs currently support macOS Big Sur, even Macs made 7 years ago still support it. So if you buy an Intel-based Mac right now, you should expect it to run the latest macOS software for the next 6 or 7 years before there will finally be a new macOS version that only runs on an Apple chip. And then at that point, your Mac will still continue working on the old version of macOS until you decide to upgrade it. So apart from that, there are a few very good reasons why it actually makes more sense to buy an Intel-based Mac. But of course, there are still some people who would be much happier with an ARM-based Mac, and I'll discuss those reasons right after I cover the benefits of buying an Intel-based Mac. But first, I want to mention that we have our new premium Apple product hoodie available right below in the merch shelf, and let me tell you guys, this thing is incredibly soft and comfortable. One of the major benefits to an Intel-based Mac is boot camp support. It has already been confirmed that ARM Macs will no longer support Windows 10 using Boot Camp, and that is a very big deal. Not only for the people who want to play games, but also for people who need to use productivity apps that are only available on Windows. There are a ton of people who purchased an eGPU setup for their MacBook so they could play games in Windows, and that will no longer be possible using ARM Macs. Now, Apple did mention that Windows 10 would still be able to run on these new Macs, but using virtualization software like Parallels, but the gaming performance is horrible. Dan the Soundman showed off the new Parallels 15, which finally supports DirectX 11, and basically every game he tried out was unplayable since you're trying to run Windows and all of its drivers using a virtual machine within macOS. Gaming on Windows will die with ARM Macs, so that's why it totally makes sense to buy an Intel-based Mac right now and enjoy Windows 10 on it for the next 6 to 7 years. You can either use an eGPU, or you can buy the new 16-inch MacBook Pro with the new 5600M graphics option and get even more FPS than with the most popular 5700 XT eGPU, and we even proved it in this video, which I'll link to at the end of this one. An even bigger deal for a wider range of customers is that the transition to ARM is going to be a bit bumpy for the first couple of years. There are a lot of Mac users who need to use third-party apps and plugins to get their work done, and this requires developers to recompile their apps to work with Apple's chips alongside Intel chips. And there's a very good chance that when ARM Macs start coming to the market, some apps that you use won't be updated at all to work with ARM. Now, Apple does have a solution for that, and it's Rosetta 2, which emulates Intel-based apps on the fly to work on ARM chips. The main downside with that is that the apps will obviously run slower with Rosetta 2 than if the app was actually recompiled to work with ARM. And one thing to keep in mind is that even the apps that will get updated in time will also need to be re-optimized, which is a process that sometimes takes developers months or even years to finally get right. So there's a very good chance that if you switch to an ARM-based Mac that might even be more powerful than your current Intel-based Mac, your apps will probably run slower for at least a year or two while developers get around to updating and completely re-optimizing their apps for ARM. And there are people and companies who need their Macs to run quickly to get their work done because they actually make money with their machines. So it makes sense for people like that to buy the upcoming Intel-based Macs and hold off on ARM until they know they'll get better performance with the apps that they use. And speaking of those upcoming Intel-based Macs, which we should expect Apple to release very soon, they should be some of the most powerful Macs we've seen in years, thanks to Intel finally putting out their 10th gen chips and AMD coming out with incredibly powerful Navi graphics, which leakers have discovered support for in macOS Big Sur's source code. That's exactly what we expect for the upcoming Intel-based iMac. And just earlier today, a new Geekbench 5 result was leaked, showing an Intel-based Mac with a 10-core i9 processor and an AMD Navi 5300 graphics card running on an Apple motherboard, both of which have never been seen before in a Mac. So realistically, it makes a ton of sense to buy an Intel Mac instead of waiting for ARM, enjoy great performance for all of your third-party apps, and enjoy all of the features like Windows 10 using Boot Camp. And then in 2 or 3 years, when ARM-based Macs finally prove themselves, you can then make the switch and sell your Intel-based Mac to someone who really wants to use Boot Camp. And now let's discuss the market of people who ARM-based Macs really make sense for right now. If you don't really do much work using high-end third-party apps, the transition to ARM is going to be super smooth for you, since Apple's apps will run perfectly fine on day one. And on top of that, ARM MacBooks are most likely going to have substantially better battery life than current-gen MacBooks. And right now, the current MacBook Air suffers from overheating issues and high fan noise when using even common apps like Zoom video conferencing. The ARM chips will run much cooler and have less fan noise for common tasks. And we know this for sure since the current A12Z Apple ARM chip in the iPad Pro is completely fanless and it stays relatively cool even while gaming. Another upside to waiting for an ARM-based Mac is the fact that iOS and iPadOS apps are gonna run natively on these new Macs. So games like PUBG and Call of Duty Mobile will run on your Mac finally. And all you need to do to get an excellent gaming experience is hook up a controller. And the final reason is that Apple could surprise everyone with incredibly powerful ARM chips right out of the get-go. Current rumors are pointing to a 12-core 5nm ARM processor coming to the first ARM-based Mac this year, which has 4 more high-performance cores than the 7nm Apple Developer Transition Kit that they're sending to developers right now. And if we look at the benchmark performance of that machine in Geekbench 5, which is also running Rosetta 2 emulation and not fully supported by ARM, that upcoming 12-core 5nm ARM chip has the potential to outperform the current 16-inch MacBook Pro right out of the gate. That means if you use Apple's apps like Final Cut Pro, Xcode, and Logic Pro 10, there's a chance that these ARM-based Macs will perform better than the Intel-based Macs because Apple will make sure that those apps are optimized in advance, but we'll just have to wait and see. So basically, the point of this video is that there is a large market of people who will actually be better off buying an Intel-based Mac right now, especially due to the fact that Apple has confirmed that they'll continue releasing software updates for Intel Macs for years to come. So hopefully you learned something new from this video, and if you did, be sure to check the links down below for the best deals on the current Intel-based Macs right now, and be sure to tap the like button below and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one, and make sure to check out our new hoodie right below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.